back. Evening Football Daily Show coming at you live, 10:30, right on time, like we say. Hey, we're excited to be back. It's things are ramping up. I think it's getting excited. It's getting to a closer part of the year. I saw today, Nick, we are at the 100-day mark from the start of the season.
Awesome, awesome.
So,
That is great.
I mean, with that being said, it's like now we're getting down into double digits, 99 days till football is on the TV. Take one down, you pass it around, 98
Day,
days, something like that. But it is getting excited. Now, I do want to say this, let's not like breeze through this summer because like let's just enjoy everything that the summer has to offer. First summer after we beat COVID, you know.
Hey, look
So,
at us.
you know, just hey, I do want to say this. I want to make a note for some of the fans out there. Hey, when we get back out there, let's not like pump our chests too much. Let's not become like just a bunch of degenerates now that we're back out and we're just fighting each other in the stands. If you're gonna fight someone in the stands, make sure it's a warranted issue, and make sure you're not the one who starts it.
That's all it
It would be
is.
the other criteria for that. But other than that, let's go out. Let's have a good time. Let's
Absolutely.
enjoy, some of these other sports that are summer sports as we get into football. Let's enjoy the beach. Let's enjoy, hey, throwing the good old pigskin around just with some buddies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh, yeah.
let's get back to our lives in a good way because I know there's some people out here that are living their lives like that. And I will say this, Nick, I don't know if you saw this,
Uh-huh.
AJ Brown, he's recruiting Julio Jones. He's letting Julio know, hey, this is why you need to come to Tennessee.
Oh,
This is why
absolutely.
you need to be tight. And I will say this, the format that AJ Brown chose to recruit Julio Jones, I am all for. I am here. I don't know if you know this, but he made a TikTok video, and I'm a little bit of a TikTok stan. I will say that, but he made a TikTok video, not convincing, maybe convincing, Julio Jones on this is why you should come to the Titans. Here's who we got. This is how it's going to help you. And I think I am very excited to see more and more of this player-led recruiting, essentially.
See, it's what you love to see. I saw it. How could you not? It was phenomenal. It was out there. It got, obviously, if it made it to most of the world, Julio Jones definitely saw it, which is what is cool about TikTok. You make a cool TikTok like that, float it out into the world. It's going to catch some buzz. Boom. Next thing you know, it actually works. Julio Jones is actually watching it. And now all of a sudden, you never know. You never
Yeah.
know, because the reality is you're not only seeing it reported in one or two places. You're seeing Julio Jones to the Titans reported multiple places now. That's a big story. Now I understand, the Seahawks popped in last night. You've seen a lot about the Patriots, obviously, but
Yes.
I mean, I haven't seen anybody on the Seahawks. I haven't seen Russell Wilson get out there and hit some fucking, TikTok dance. And then, like, I haven't seen anything like that. I've seen Belichick out here talking about, some sort of, astronaut in the ocean playing in the background. And he's just, out there, like, making it happen. So far, the Titans are the only team that's really, seeming to make a push in a way that I think would attract someone in the modern NFL. So,
In, and the only other team I will say is, and we did touch on this, was the Arizona Cardinals with DeAndre Hopkins saying he would restructure some of his deal to get
that's
Julio.
right.
So to me, those would be the top two teams with players who are actively pushing to get Julio on their team. But I'm more curious in how many times did AJ Brown have to post that video to get it to go viral? Because I imagine the first one or two times he was probably stuck on like 200
That's what
views.
happens.
Really couldn't break through that TikTok viralicity, as we say. But I'm glad to see maybe with some of his Pro Bowl accolades, his stardom in the NFL. Maybe that helped. Maybe the algorithm took that into
That's
account
what
and
helps.
boosted that. So it is a little easier for these Pro Bowlers to get their TikToks to go
Of
viral.
course.
But we still try, and you just got to try. That's all you got to do at the end of the day. But but yeah, I love that AJ Brown actively is like, hey, I want to win. That's a sign of a guy that's in your team, in your culture that clearly wants to win if he's trying to get a top talent
Yep.
like Julio Jones to
Who
the
plays the
team.
same
And if it
position?
is
Plays the same position as
for
him,
sure,
mind you, which is
it,
also like a factor here.
Yes, and even if it is just like a, and I'm sure like the management looks at it like, oh, well, that's like a silly TikTok thing, and like how that could be beneficial for the team. But like I think you see a lot of these young guys starting to, use some of these TikToks, and like all the teams have their own TikToks, so they get it to a certain extent. But I don't know if they understand like the actual TikTok culture. But I know these players that are coming up in the league do, and I'll be more excited to see these players not only just promote themselves, but football in general. And it's a nice peek into their lives, unless it's ran by a media team, and in that case, probably not. But seeing something like AJ Brown doing this to recruit Julio Jones, I'm all for it. It's something I would do if I was in his position. Um, and if I was AJ Brown, I would start a series. Day one of trying to get Julio Jones on the Titans, day two of trying to get Julio
There
Jones
you
on it,
go.
and just post one video each day. And by the time 20 days from now, you're gonna have Julio Jones. That's how TikTok works. So
There you go.
AJ Brown, if you're hearing this, maybe do that series. You'll get him on the team. No problem.
No problem. See,
Um,
now I'll tell you what a monster of a team that would be. That is not a
yeah.
team you want to have to game plan for defensively. When you are looking in the backfield at Derrick Henry, who they will give the ball to 40 times if they need to. They have no qualms with that. And you're like, all right, well, let's go ahead, come up. Maybe we bring that safety down. Maybe we make sure we got enough guys down here in the box to stop this freak beast. Oh, wait, there's another athlete unlike anyone we've ever seen from the University of Alabama standing right over there. And
Named Ryan
he
Tannehill.
is
Oh, sorry.
he is equally going to be as challenging to defend, and that's Julio Jones. I don't know how you could possibly game plan for that defensively, um, and if they can pull that off, I think that is very interesting. And it also makes me wonder when you look at this, does Julio Jones end up with a team like that because he does want to play with some of these other offensive pieces, right? And he doesn't
Yeah.
want to be the focal point of the offense like he would be in New England, for example, right? If he plays with a team like Arizona or a team like Tennessee, he's part of an offense that has a bunch of weapons, right? But if he goes somewhere, I'll be honest, if he goes to Seattle, I like DK Metcalf, but Julio's kind of the only weapon there, the big time weapon there, you know? Same thing if he goes to New
Yeah.
England. He sort of is, it's the same thing as he's been in Atlanta all these years. I'm not saying all the other
Yeah.
receivers in Atlanta suck, but what I am saying is like, at the end of the day, he's kind of been it. He's kind of been it. He's been focused on so much in his career. And as he gets a little later in his career, I just wonder if maybe he's looking for a spot where he can feel comfortable, where maybe to be honest, he does have a guy like AJ Brown on the other side of the ball who is a legitimate Pro Bowl level player and
Yes.
Derrick Henry in the backfield. So I'm just
Yeah.
curious
I
to
mean,
see where his head's at.
yeah. And I think Julio wants to win. I think that's probably higher on his list of things to accomplish with this move away from the Falcons. So I do think you're looking at a team that is like ready to be geared up to like a Titans or an Arizona Cardinals that seem like they might just be one piece away from really pushing that over the edge. And if they were able to get Julio Jones, that piece is probably bigger than the piece they thought they needed, and that's really going to push them over the edge. So really exciting to see, the recruiting style, kind of how the NFL is changing in a lot of ways with these new social media platforms popping up. And I think I can speak for us both here, Nick, when we say we're here for it. But speaking of the New England Patriots, Hunter Henry new with the team there,
Yup.
and kind of getting used to the culture fit. And he actually came out and said it fits him really well. So it seems like Hunter Henry's the type of guy that you know has bought into the Patriots way. I I find it hard to go to the New England Patriots and not buy into that way, but maybe that's a little easier for some of these newer free agents to do without the presence of like a Tom Brady there at the quarterback position and Bill Belichick. So maybe some players aren't necessarily fitting into the Patriots way as well, but Hunter Henry, he seems to be buying in, and that doesn't shock me with him. He seems like a guy that wants to he's seen the success in New England, and he thinks if there's the formula already there, might as well just buy in and and get to it and hopefully win a Super Bowl or two or bring a Super Bowl back to New England. But pretty cool to see that the Patriots way is still alive even without Tom Brady.
See, that's what it is. It's one of those things where clearly these players in the NFL know what they're getting into in New England at this point. They're very aware of it, right? And with a guy like
Yep.
him, you look at it, Patriots had a bunch of money to spend this offseason. That was a big storyline. Everybody kind of knew, hey, these guys have a ton of money that they're able to spend this offseason. And realistically, they took, I think it's like between him and the other tight end that they signed, I think they spent $70 million long term on two tight
Yeah.
ends. And so you
Yep.
still have Josh McDaniels there calling that offense. They were always a two tight end look when Josh McDaniels was there the first time around. Before this is the Aaron Hernandez kind of time with Gronk and Aaron Hernandez.
Yep.
That was Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator, Belichick as the head coach. They won a bunch of Super Bowls, and it looks like they want that two tight end look back. Most of these teams in the NFL, we've talked about it before this, these tight ends nowadays are key components to these teams. So look at the Kansas City Chiefs. If they don't have Travis Kelce, who knows if that offense is as good as it is? I don't think it is without him. People have often looked at that tight end spot as some sort of like plug and play, like you just throw some guy out there and whatever. Not the case. I mean, look at the type
Yeah.
of teams that have had success the last few years. George Kittle in San Francisco, they played in the Super Bowl. You've got Travis Kelce with the Chiefs.
Yep.
Mark Andrews, one of the best tight ends in the league in Baltimore. Look at what they've been doing the last few years. You see, you're starting to see some young guys step into the fray, right? And so, the Green Bay Packers are in a situation like that. You've got a couple other teams that are in a situation like that.
Evan Ingram with the Giants.
Yep. And because of that, now all of a sudden, right, you see the Patriots moving to spend $70 million on two tight ends long
Yeah.
term. And Hunter Henry's a damn good player. And so I think you can see now what the plan is there with Belichick. You can kind of see the long term plan there. And man, he is just reloading that thing and getting ready to go. So I totally agree with you. Patriot way type of guy. Hunter Henry's probably bought in. And nowadays, I think the Patriots are kind of past that point where remember when they used to bring guys in and it was like you really weren't sure if that guy's going to fit and then it was like
Yeah.
50-50 and half the time like 2 weeks later the guy would be cut. You'd be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's what they're doing." Like that I think those days are starting to be numbered because most of these NFL guys understand what they're getting into. I mean, it's just your agent knows and he's telling you. Other guys in the league know and they're telling you. And so I really think Belichick has finally built this culture in a way where now he's just attracting the guys that want to be in that environment. And like
Yeah.
he's they're coming to him now, which is awesome because he doesn't have to go seek them out. And I think Hunter Henry is a great example of that. But yeah, the fact that they're bringing that two tight end setback, man, is going to be something. There's a lot going on there when you got two tight ends, Cam Newton in the backfield. Like that's a tough thing to deal with, especially in the red zone.
Yeah. Yeah, that two tight end front is going to be I think it's going to be a staple for the Patriots this season. Kind of getting back to some things that worked for them in the past that when they didn't when they were just bringing along Tom Brady or a season where he was hurt and stuff like that. You had guys like Rob Gronkowski who you could always go to, and a
Yep.
guy like Hunter Henry kind of fits that role of just like a dependable option to go to on third down or something like that when your team needs a play. So excited to see what Hunter Henry does in New England, and we'll see come time the season rolls around. But I do want to back up towards the draft, if you don't mind,
Oh yeah.
Nicholas. But apparently there was a video of behind the scenes that got leaked of the Panthers just refusing all of the Vikings offers to trade up on draft night.
Yes.
And to be honest, I think there is going to be. I think the NFL needs to do a better job of promoting these type of videos because I think this is ultimately it's that hard knocks type of feeling where it's like, oh, I'm getting to see some of the behind the scenes stuff, and especially when you have a team like the Vikings, because everyone who has played fantasy football has made terrible trade offers,
Oh yeah.
and just in hopes that maybe this person, likes this guy a lot or whatever. So everyone, who's in the fantasy football world, like,
Oh yeah.
can relate. And it's just interesting to see that actual NFL teams will still try to be like, all right, can we Can we get this for as little as possible?
Yes.
And so it's pretty funny. And I think the NFL will do better to have more of this type of content out there.
Yeah, it's awesome to see. The At one point in that video, the owner of the Panthers is just basically like, "No, just tell him no. I mean, no. Tell him not to call us back unless they have any." Like you have this guy that's worth multiple billions of dollars. I think that the Carolina Panthers owner might actually be the richest owner in the NFL. I think I saw something like that. He's a guy actually, I
Okay.
believe, from Charleston, South Carolina. He's like a Wall Street type guy. So he's big down here in the Carolinas, and he's just
He
sitting in
might be
there.
a financial advisor.
What? Oh, what'd you say?
He might be a financial
He
advisor.
might be. He actually, yeah, he actually might be. He he's done
Unlike us.
he's done well for himself. But anyway, he's sitting there, and like you just see this billionaire being like, "Yeah, we don't have time. Like, what are they doing? Like, we don't have time for these offers are terrible. Like, tell them not to know. Like, we're not doing this." And it's just fantastic because at the end of the day, like for a guy like that that's worth whatever $7 billion, it's like he is playing fantasy football. I mean, to him,
Yeah.
like, what are
Yeah.
we really doing here? Like, he's running a business, obviously, but it's a business that's consistently made money for the last 100 years. Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty much a guaranteed win for him, and he's just playing fantasy football at this point. And he did not like what the Minnesota Vikings were trying to do in that war room at all. And if you're a Vikings fan watching that video, in fairness, you've got to be kind of face palming a little bit because you're like, what are we do? Like, these are not real offers. Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't see how this is going to help us at all. Like, who's going to take this offer? So it's interesting to watch that, like, contrast of the two teams and how they're like approaching it. But man, I agree with you. Like, do you know how awesome it would be if you could just watch like a live stream of like Jerry Jones like at the
Uh,
draft, like pay-per-view? You get it after the fact, obviously. You couldn't watch it live, you'd see what was
yeah.
going on. But like if after the fact, they were able to do some hard knock shit and it was like you could just see him fielding offers and being like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, no,
Oh,
like it would be electric.
for sure. And really, why couldn't you? You're every war room's outfitted with cameras and stuff already.
Yep.
You know, you can see what's going on in there. Why wouldn't you bring in a camera guy and a mic guy, and then when after the draft's done, you just cut together like an hour or two thing that you can release on the NFL Network or whatever, and be like, yeah, the draft special.
Do you think
And yeah, people would buy the hell out of that
do
to
you
watch it.
do
They want to know what's going on behind the scenes.
Do you think that part of it is that the NFL just needs to lean a little more into the edgier side of the league? Like they have the HBO partnership, which is why Hard Knocks is so popular, I think, because it's uncensored and they're able to show a little bit more of that stuff. Like I almost wonder if they would if they I guess my question is if they leaned more into their relationship with HBO and the ability to release some more of the edgy, uncensored type of content, like would that benefit them in this new media age? Because there are times where it seems
I
so Disney-fied. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you can imagine watching that video of the war rooms, but it's like goofy ass music, and it's like this war room, the snacks are really good. Like you could see it like as like a Sports Center segment. Like their snacks are, and they're talking about like Sean Payton's cool Jordans. Like it's like I don't think
yeah,
that's what people necessarily want.
for sure.
But I just wonder if they leaned into that, if that would help them in this modern media climate.
I mean, well, here's the thing: is like you already have the HBO partnership, and you could also release something as like a special, and then just rate it properly. Like, oh, strong language. You know,
Yep.
you just give it a like proper rating and let people know what's in there. Like, I don't think you're gonna get a lot of like 8, 9 year olds being like, let me watch this draft special that we got to pay $10 for, and their strong language and stuff like that. I mean, because then it's not easily accessible to little kids and stuff like that. You have to, have your parents get it for you so you could watch it, so they know, they'll see it. And I think if they did it that way, they could literally just release it themselves on a platform, and not even have to go the HBO route. But I do think they do need to lean a little more into it with the edginess. But I think that will be a slow process because I think they're afraid that they will lose a lot of fans by doing that. And based on the research we found, we know that's probably not the case.
Right.
But I'm sure they probably look into that a little more than we probably look into it and take that into account. But yeah, I think the NFL would do because I mean it is edgy,
Yeah.
like let's not pretend at the end of the day these guys aren't cussing each other out on the football field
Right.
or in practice or in the locker room
Right.
or in the war room or watching film. Like it's just the reality of football, and not saying that's right or
Right.
wrong, but like you do have guys that are cussing and stuff like that, and you're seeing it so much more with different media and stuff. Like just language is just in there now with podcasts and whatnot. So like you're starting to. I don't see the NFL getting there because I think they're too big, so they can't move quick enough to get this year or next year. But I think in the next like 3 to 5 years, I think you see them potentially making that bigger push to not not necessarily be edgy, but like play a little bit into that side of
Yeah.
it. Because really, as the NFL, you have so many different target audiences. You really should be trying to create content for each one of them to give them the best experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely, for sure.
And so that's just something that I think the NFL probably could do with stuff like this. But hey, I'm here for it. The draft night was an interesting one. A lot of stuff happening. But I will say, let's shift our attention over to Kansas City
Oh, okay.
and Patty
Oh,
Mahomes.
Patty.
Hey, they're not just in pursuit of a Super Bowl this year. They are trying to transcend the NFL and the 1970s Miami Dolphins team that always pounds their chest, whichever 70s team that was. Was it 72 maybe?
72, right?
Like that. Does it really matter? Who
It's a
cares?
long,
Only people who care.
about
Family.
18,
That's all.
18 years
But
before I was born, so it's not
yeah,
relevant.
yeah. Hey, we don't care.
Exactly.
Okay? We don't care. We don't care about that Miami Dolphins team. Great, you did it. Wonderful.
That was
Beautiful.
1,000 years ago.
But
You didn't have Chase Young coming off the edge, coming at Dan
for
Marino
sure.
full fucking speed. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure, take it with a grain of salt. I'm happy for Dolphins
Yeah.
fans, but like, don't.
Yeah. Don't be the team that has one great accomplishment that you're beating your chest on for your whole life,
Yeah, there's some.
Um,
Yes.
but I will say, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs not trying to do that because they've recently won a Super Bowl, been to a Super Bowl, and they're in the pursuit of perfection. Vince Lombardi's perfection that he talked about. That is what they are in pursuit of with Andy Reid, Patty Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes.
That's.
But I thought, you know what I saw, Nick,
Uh,
when he said, I saw negative Nellies out there saying, "Why would you even say
Come
that,
on, Patrick.
Why would you put that on?"
It's the truth.
Before, incredibly difficult in a hell of a mountain to climb, and yeah, may it add some stress towards the later half of the season because like you are chasing perfection. Yeah, but I think that should be every team's goal. Well, it's unrealistic to win every single game. Who the fuck cares? Who does that mean you don't try? Like oh well, you only have to win the last game and that's a Super Bowl. Yeah, great. If you just want to be great but average,
That's.
sure. You know what? I'm here for Patrick Mahomes and his hot take of chasing perfection and going 20-0. Because you know what? If there is a team that could do it, I do think it is the Kansas City Chiefs. But I do think the NFL is such a competitive league now that it'll be an amazing feat if it happens. But I think the odds are stacked a little bit against Patrick Mahomes. But I'm rooting for him. And if they go 20-0, I'll be okay with it. I'd rather see him go 19-1 and lose to the Packers in the Super Bowl, but that's just the
There
fandom
you
in me
go.
coming out. So, but other than that, Patty Mahomes, you go chase greatness, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
I think the pursuit of it is good. I think the pursuit of perfection is good. I think every team, I agree with you, should be trying to do that. What I don't like is Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes opening their mouth this offseason, both saying that they're trying to go undefeated, When in reality, let's wake up a second, Patrick Mahomes. You just lost the Super Bowl. You were running for your life that whole game. Now, granted, that's
He
because your
was.
offensive line was hurt, and I understand that. But it's not like you left us with this great vision of like, oh man, this guy has just figured it out. The other thing is every defensive coordinator in the NFL knows what the hell they're doing for the most part. And they've been
Uh-huh.
preparing for now they have 2 full years of figuring out what you guys do on offense. Defenses have now had 2 full years to try their best to get used to defending a guy like Tyreek Hill and a guy like Travis Kelce. And the reality is, if I'm being totally honest, let's just look. I pulled it up here at the Chiefs' schedule. When Patrick Mahomes is talking about they're going to go undefeated, they open with the Cleveland Browns. So not an easy
That's a tough
game, not
matchup.
an easy game at all. In their first 8 games, in the first 8 games, just the first half of the season this year, the Kansas City Chiefs play the Browns, the Ravens, the Bills, and the Titans. If we look at their first 12 games of the season, they also, in that span, play the Packers and Cowboys.
Mm.
So my argument is, if you're going to talk all that shit, you had better back it up. And I don't mean it like he's talking a bunch of shit, like he's coming out like everyone else sucks, I'm the man, we're going to win everything. But no one is holding a
Yeah.
gun to your head and telling you to come out as Patrick Mahomes, knowing the type of media attention that you get, and say, yeah, man, we're out here, we're going to do this undefeated thing. When you play all of those teams in your first 12 games, your first 10 games, your first 8 games, I think the reality is, what if the Chiefs come out and lose 2 of their first 8 games? Then my thing is, now you're just one of these guys who talks. If you're Patrick Mahomes, now you're just the guy who talks. Brady can get away with it because Tom Brady has had a season where he almost went undefeated. So if he wants to come out and say we're going undefeated this year, I think he's an idiot too. But he can at least have something to lean on where he can go, well, you know what? I'm Tom Brady. I'm the GOAT. I can say what I want. Patrick Mahomes, like, bro, we just saw you running for your life. Like, I don't even know that Patrick Mahomes is beloved by the entire NFL. I think there are some people that already don't like that guy. And the reality,
Really?
yeah, for sure. I think if you look at the way that Twitter reacts to like his brother and his wife, and like he
Yeah.
has this thing where like people do not like, he has a little Russell Wilson to him in the same way that like people don't always like jive with Russell Wilson, and they're not always like,
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes has a little bit of that. So it's like, man, you are saying a lot that no one is making you say when you have the schedule you have. And my thing is, if you roll out and your guy's record is 9-3 after the first 12 games, it's like, dude, now you're just a guy who talks. You're just a guy that won a Super
Yeah.
Bowl and an MVP early on, and now you just talk. Like, I also
Yeah.
don't love, and I'll end this point on this because I feel like I'm on a tangent, but I also don't know that you want to.
Come on, baby, let's get it.
I also don't know that you want to put that uh, pressure on your team, because now you've given every week you keep winning. You've given the defense that you're about to go against something for the locker room, right? The newspaper clipping for the locker room. If you're the Cleveland Browns right now, you're looking at that dude and you're going like, yeah, or you can start the year 0-1 now, Mr. 20-0. Like, that's my thought, right? So it's like, I think that is a bold ass statement to make. Now, if he does it, phenomenal, right? It's a home run swing. It's like if he does it, he
Yeah.
called it and he's the man forever and that whole thing. But if you don't, like, no one made you say that. No one held a gun to your head and say like, we're going undefeated.
And I think you probably more than anyone understand the psychology of like getting your team like rally.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe this is like that attempt to be like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
we were in the Super Bowl last year. We won the Super Bowl the year before, I believe. Is that
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
And so, we've been there. We're good enough. Maybe he feels like that year three, they're gonna have some things really gelling together, offense firing on all cylinders. So yeah, it might lift up the Kansas City Chiefs being like, yeah, our quarterback thinks like we can go 20-0, great, wonderful. And I think of it as like it's so early in the off season, like for him to say that, I think like okay, yeah, bring some headlines and stuff like gets the Kansas City Chiefs talked about, but I think once you get to the football season, like unless he's still pounding 20-0 throughout the off season, I think that does kind of get forgotten about.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so I don't know if it's going to be too much of a like I mean for the Cleveland Browns week 1, sure. I think they're going to have it posted in their locker room because that's your week 1 matchup. So why not?
Yep.
Use that as your fuel. But I think if he kind of just takes his foot off the gas and then gets into the season, I don't think there'll be so much hype about it. But I think you're right. With a guy like Tom Brady, he can easily make that statement. One, because he's been there, done it multiple times,
Yep.
had great seasons that, almost reached the top. And two, he's playing with the Bucs, which you can make the argument that Bucs team is the best team he's ever played on as far as talent level and skill level goes. And for them to win the Super Bowl the way they did against the Chiefs, for him to come out and say that, I'm like, yeah, well, Tom Brady and his team, they have a lot better chance of going 20-0 than the Chiefs, in my opinion. But I will say this: if the Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs do go 20-0 with the teams that they play on their schedule,
Yes.
and I never want to hear the Miami Dolphins mentioned ever again. And not
I
just the
agree.
70s or 72 Miami Dolphins, just
the
the Miami
franchise.
Dolphins franchise mentioned ever
Get rid
again.
of him.
Because now you're completely irrelevant.
Absolutely.
So, but here's the thing I will leave everyone on is it's my mentality. I don't know how to, but my mentality is like, yeah, you can achieve that impossible shit. And you're gonna go 20-0. Fuck it, go,
No doubt.
because we're gonna prove a lot of the haters wrong, and the people who didn't like you are gonna start liking you, and it's gonna be great. And like, Tom Brady come out and say it, and now some guys, like, I think Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, they can come out and say, yeah, we're gonna go 20-0 because their teams are set up to potentially go 20-0. Now, is it still a 5 to 10% chance that actually happens? Sure, it's slim, it's not very great, but I mean, if you look at some teams that have done some questionable things, but it has worked out very well for them. Like, one thing, I hate to admit it, but one thing I think the Bears organization did very well and really captured an audience was their 1985 team doing the Super Bowl shuffle in the middle of the season, releasing it, and then going and actually winning the Super Bowl.
There you
You
go.
know, like, that shit is some legendary shit, you know.
Sometimes
So,
you call your shot and it works. I mean,
yep.
sometimes you do. Then there's other times where you
Oh,
show up and you have a LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh who go not one, not two, not three,
for sure.
not four. First season, get blasted by the Dallas Mavericks in the finals. Like
So I'm
that's
and that probably happens more often than not. That's why it makes
right.
moments like these that do play out so special. So like I said, it'd probably only be a 5 to 10% chance that they do actually go 20-0. Um, but if it does, I think that that is it's a great accomplishment, and I think a guy like Patrick Mahomes only becomes more of a talker for you, Nick.
There you go. See,
So.
Mr. 20-0. I'll call him it either way. They lose that first game of the season. I will refer to that dude as Mr. 20-0 for the rest of his life.
Yeah. So I mean, but having the Packers on that schedule, it could potentially be a tough one to overcome. You know, given that Aaron Rodgers is there, and from everything I'm hearing from the Packers organization, is they're not trading Aaron Rodgers. The only reason they're going to trade Aaron Rodgers is if they know for a fact he's not coming back to Green Bay. And I think right now it's just too early to tell if he is coming back or not. I think our hopes and feelings about the situation is we think he'll be back. I know we talked about this for probably the last week now. Nick's lights are still green because it's Aaron Rodgers watch 2021. Well, what's he going to do? Miles Teller's getting beat up by Aaron Rodgers thugs. And no, I'm kidding. It was definitely Brian Gutekunst and Mark Murphy. Definitely came out to Hawaii. Pow, pow, pow.
Wanted that smoke.
No, I'm just kidding. But, we do have like some interesting developed drama building around the Aaron Rodgers saga. To me, I'm in the same spot as I was last week. I think he'll be there. And I just, I don't, I'm not too worried about it. But also, I think I've probably already come to like the acceptance of if he wasn't a Green Bay Packer. So in my
Yeah.
mind, I've already ran through that scenario and mourned the loss of Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay
Feel
Packers. So
you
I
feel
I feel a
prepared.
little
Yeah.
mentally prepared if that situation were to happen. and I feel optimistic about the team regardless. So it like I said, love to see Aaron Rodgers in the Green Bay. Want him to only be in a Packers uniform, unless he wants something else. And then in that case, go live your life, Aaron.
See, it's what it is. My lights are still green in the studio here. Once we know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers, those will change. I don't have much for it. I think at the end of the day, we're on the same page there.
Yeah,
He
I will.
he will hopefully be back. You
Yeah,
know.
I will say I do think this Aaron Rodgers situation is starting to shape up the NFL in a little different way because I I don't know if you saw this, Nick, but I did see that Kyler Murray wasn't at. I'm pretty sure it was OTAs. He
Yep.
hasn't worked out with the Cardinals yet this offseason. So what's going on there? Why haven't the NFL or the media covered that? Is Kyler Murray unhappy with the Cardinals? Are they not
Exactly.
treating him right? What is going on? He's not there. Yeah, he's worked out with a couple players in the offseason, but what does that mean? I don't think he's coming back. I think he's going to hold out. I'm kidding, people. Relax. I'm not the mainstream media. I'm going to let you know what's happening with Kyler Murray and the NFL and quarterbacks as a whole because this is what has happened. Kyler Murray's not at the Arizona Cardinals OTAs so far. I mean, he'll probably be there, but from the article that I read, which was by Mike Florio, is that he is not there and he believes he should have a say in personnel matters, which to me is a little wild given his short stint in the NFL. But also, he does have a lot of leverage because if Kyler Murray didn't want to, very similar to Aaron Rodgers, very different in where they're at in their careers. But
Yep.
where Aaron Rodgers, he's got a lot of leverage where he can go do other things in life. Kyler Murray can just be like, you know what? I'm just going to go play for the Oakland A's then. He does,
Yep.
and when you see these top level talents that don't need the NFL, but the NFL does need them because they're star players, now you're starting to see the leverage start to switch.
Yep.
So I think you see a lot more quarterbacks want to have a say in personnel matters, and I don't think that's a bad thing because I think if you have a quarterback, I mean, if you have a quarterback who's wanting to say in defensive personnel matters, yeah, go get fucked. But
Yeah.
unless
I
it's like just a
like it.
top cornerback, but if you're an
Like
offensive
it.
quarterback and you want to have a say in like, yeah, I think we should go and get this tight end, or I think we should go and get this wide receiver. Like once again, having a say is not the same as having the end all be all say. So to include these quarterbacks in the conversation, especially like a guy like Kyler Murray, who we've seen him play. He's an athlete and probably going to be your franchise quarterback unless you move away from him. I don't see what's so wrong with saying like, okay, we'll give you a little say this season and then just gradually bring him along more and more into the conversation. Like it doesn't have to be like, okay, you're meeting with all the coaches now this season. It doesn't have to be. I do think we are seeing a shift in the NFL where that might become more and more of a thing, and you are going to be kind of circling back to these essentially like player coaches at the quarterback position, I believe.
I mean, when you're paying a guy $40 million a year, as you're gonna with Aaron Rodgers or someone like that, or a Tom Brady or a Patrick Mahomes, and that number is only going to get bigger, or Russell Wilson, to Dak Prescott. When you're paying these guys $40 million a year, I mean, yeah, I would think like maybe I should get a say too. Like I'm making 5 times what the coach is making. Like I don't know, why I wouldn't get a say would be my mindset. Kyler Murray, very young. I agree with you. Very young to be like saying that he wants a say in things. But I also think that if I'm being totally honest, I think that the teams you don't hear about in this aspect are the teams that just give the quarterback a say behind the scenes, and they're just
Yep.
good at that relationship. And that's why you don't hear about it. I think pretty much across the board in the NFL, you have the teams that you don't hear about that are in those positions probably just do a good job of keeping them in the loop. Like, think about it. I think Philip Rivers is a great guy. He seems like a good human. But the reality
Yep.
is, I'm sure that that's not the only reason we never hear about this out of like a guy like Philip Rivers during his career. It's probably because the Chargers kept him in the loop on things that were going on. Like it's probably realistically they just figured it out. I would imagine that the Vikings kind of keep Kirk Cousins in the know of what they're trying to do, which is why you don't hear him having these complaints. I
Yeah.
That's my feel on it is I don't think that the NFL is set up in the way that I guess the media portrays, where it's like, hey, these guys are so selfish, they want to say in all this, and they
Yeah.
shouldn't necessarily get a say. And like, I think that they just either do or don't. I just think there's some franchises that haven't figured that out yet. Like, you never hear about this out in Denver. You didn't hear about it
Yeah.
with Peyton Manning. You don't hear about it now with Drew Lock and those guys. Elway was a quarterback. Like, he probably
Yep.
keeps them generally in the loop. Like, I don't think it's all that complicated. I'm pretty sure Jerry Jones keeps his quarterback kind of aware of what's going on, because I would imagine Jerry Jones is the type of guy that likes to go hang out with his quarterback every fucking week. Like, I'm pretty sure he's communicating with his quarterback fairly frequently. And so, I just think that what this exposes is teams that don't do a very good job of that, because
Yeah.
agents end up leaking stories like this about their players. That's my take on it. I think, you either are it's sort of a have or a have not thing. You either are a quarterback who has a team that will keep you in the loop, or you don't.
Yep. And here's the other thing. Like this story that we heard about Kyler Murray is is not saying he's holding out of going to camp because he needs to have a say in personnel
Correct.
matters. I just don't think he's been to the voluntary OTAs, and he wants. I'm sure he does want to have a say in personnel matters, but I think he'll show up to camp and it won't be any issue. And then they'll get the personnel matters thing figured out. But I don't necessarily see Kyler Murray holding out from going to camp or anything like that. I just don't. I don't see there if there's any. I don't see a big enough incentive for him to do that. Like he can obviously work on getting a say with personnel matters while he's at camp and things like that.
But I agree
Um,
with you. Like, what is this bias that we're seeing, though? Because I agree with you. It's like, okay, why is the media not all over this? Like,
yeah.
he plays on a good team. Like, he's got like a notable coach. He's got a bunch of
Yep.
other players on the team that are notable players, and all of a sudden,
And he's
no one cares. Yeah, and he's young. He's a star in the league, and all of a sudden, everyone's like, "Oh, he's not at OTAs. Let's not even care." But Aaron
yeah.
Rodgers isn't, and I understand there's other stuff going on. But oh no, this guy over here isn't. This guy over
Yeah.
here isn't. Every year we hear about some guys who aren't at OTAs, and then other guys like Kyler Murray. It's just like, oh, whatever. Like, I don't know, like, what is
Yeah.
that bias? Like, I don't know, like, where does that come from?
Well, I think it comes from this, Nick, and this is all speculation. So I want to say that first, and then I also want to follow that up with I'm not a financial advisor, but this would be my speculation. I believe that the Green Bay Packers inked the deal with the media devil, and they said your team will be great as long as every 12 to 15 years we could just drag your quarterback through the mud and your organization through the
There
mud.
we go.
And by doing that, you'll get another 12 to 15 years of being a solid football team. And you know what? If the Green Bay Packers did make that deal, then you know what? I'm okay with it. But I do think that maybe, and once again, this is speculation. I don't have any sources on this. This is my creative imagination saying that's where that media bias is
Might
coming
have been
from.
some dark arts going on. Might be,
Yeah,
a guy
yeah,
like Brett Favre leaves the team. Dark arts are still in work. Next thing he
yeah,
knows, he's like, I didn't even realize I'm sending photos of my junk to this lady over here. I didn't
yeah.
even know. I go to sleep one night. I wake up the next morning. I mean, there's some magic going on here. Some dark arts.
But
Yeah,
But you know what?
that
Brett
could
Favre
be it.
also the type of guy that these players need to just shut up and play football.
That's
Okay,
that's what they.
that's what I did in my whole career. I just shut up and I played football. I wasn't doing any
I,
off the field activities.
I was not, man. That
I,
could be it. Maybe it's like the Packers made
right?
that deal, and next thing you know, Brett Favre was plagued with with just the scorn of just making a bunch of
Yeah.
decisions he was apparently not in control of. It's a fascinating
Yep.
take.
It is. So and now we see Aaron Rodgers, getting a little bit of the dark arts put on him. I think he's handling much better. He's a little more equipped to handle, the dark arts attacks. But we'll see how it plays out. I think
That's
he might come out of this unscathed or maybe just a wound or two.
that's
But
interesting.
yeah, that would be my take, Nick. But like you said, that Cardinals team pretty stacked. Picking up J.J. Watt, DeAndre Hopkins. You have like a solid building blocks of a team there, and like I said, I think you'll see Kyler Murray, report when he needs to report when it's not voluntary. Um, I don't anticipate there being an issue there. But just the fact that he could be a Major League Baseball player as well is an interesting
It
dynamic. I
is.
think, more guys that come out of college and stuff that do play two sports, I think you're going to see more and more of them try to do both just to have a little piece of leverage as you're getting into the NFL. I don't think that's a bad thing for those players.
No doubt.
And also something for college players who are playing two sports to think about when, jumping into the league.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, hey, that's all we have for today. Make sure you guys check out our newsletter. We release it every day. It is free. We have a lot of good information in there. That is on Substack. That link is in the bio. So feel free to check out that. Also, feel free to like and subscribe, guys. It is the best way to help out the channel. And if we bring you any value at all, maybe a laugh, maybe that's all it takes. We would appreciate your support by doing those 2 or 3 things for us. So other than that, you guys have the best Tuesday of Tuesdays. I'm out. I'm Scott. This is Nick. Nick, you got anything for the people at home?
Yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully we get a little bit of crazy. I feel like we got some crazy NFL news coming in the next like 7 to 10 days. I think something big is
Okay.
gonna happen. So I'm looking forward to it. I think
I'm
let's be on the lookout for something big coming down the pipes in the next week and a half.
okay. Hey, that might be a tip off. Maybe a little Julio Jones gossip.
Could be.
Maybe a little Aaron Rodgers things. I don't know what this guy knows. I don't know, but we'll find out in the next week and a half potentially. Stay tuned. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Later, guys.